your homegirls, and welcome to a new season. I'm Fatima.
And I'm Sharon. And as always, we're keeping it real with y'all in life and in real estate.
Before we get into it, I wanted to take a quick moment and refer to our latest Instagram post. So as you know, we kind of look and sound a bit different, and that's because our girl Jill is on to a new journey in Toronto. Jill, we miss you so much, and we wish you all the best as always.
Miss you, babe. So with this new episode, we wanted to focus on new beginnings. Now, we are 6 months into 2023 at the time that we're recording, of course.
We're kind of hitting that half a year mark, and every almost quarter of a year, you kind of think about reflecting on what you've done on the past 3 months, and now it's accumulated to half a year. Like, have you hit your goals personally, professionally, financially? I think it's always like a good time to think of entering the third quarter of the year as like a new beginning. It's just like when we're changing seasons, just like when any new chapter starts, really.
Yeah, like kind of in any career as well, and in life as well, in relationship. It's nice to look back at specific moments to reflect. So typically in like real estate, we like to look in different quarters to do reflection on how things are going along. In different careers, people do that as well. They look at different quarters. I think it's a great idea to even do that in relationships and personally as well in life.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And like one thing that really always stands out, and whenever me and you are talking, you always mention, and this like really stuck with me because it's true, it's like just like a new beginning, a new chapter. If you don't close those old doors, you can't experience new doors opening. And so it's a really good time to just reflect back, and if whether it's something you're doing personally is not working for you anymore, or you're changing jobs, or you're moving on from a relationship, or you're improving your relationship, close those doors that need to be closed. Close them fully so that you can experience the new and better things.
I think that's such an important aspect in life that everybody needs to kind of keep in mind. We've discussed this before, like you just said, and even in our own personal experiences, when we've had situations, whether it be in workplaces or friendships, having that door closed, and not necessarily in a negative way, is always almost vital to your own personal success, because having that kind of connection still with something that's no longer serving you, or serving your purpose in life, could kind of bring you down. And I like to think of things as frequencies, and if you're trying to achieve a higher frequency in any aspect or factor in life, you don't want to be holding on or connected to something that is on a lower frequency that you're trying to go beyond of.
Yeah, exactly. And it's kind of like, even when you think about it, whenever people are talking about kind of moving on, like thinking of that idea of what is it, Eat Pray, what's the movie about? Eat Pray Love. Yeah, like the whole movie's about, like, or the book, or like the idea, I guess it's just about people take themselves out of their current environment completely and just distance themselves from everything they know to discover who you really are. And that's a way of closing a door, because you're taking yourself out of an old environment, kind of taking your surroundings and completely changing it, just to dig down and deep into who you are, what you want, what your needs are. And you won't be able to figure those things out if you have connections, like you said, to things that are not serving you anymore.
I think that's so important. Even in that example, just going on a day trip, even so much as going out of your way to go on a walk outside of the typical environment that you're in. It might be a stagnant energy within your environment, whether it be your office or in your home. It's nice to kind of get that fresh air, and you might be able to get some new revelations by doing so. And that could be on a bigger scale as well. Like in that movie, Eat, Pray, Love, she goes on a trip. I think it was like to Italy.
I can't remember exactly.
I didn't watch that movie.
I didn't fully either.
But there's different ways of approaching it, and I think it's a really good example to bring up.
Yeah.
But we need to watch it, so we're gonna go ahead and watch it. We'll dive in deeper with that movie.
Yeah. I think kind of staying on that, a huge challenge I see, like even personally and like everybody around me, really, when you're trying to close a door, it's just so hard. Like whether that be a relationship, again, a job, like it is really difficult, because there's such a discomfort in not knowing what's next, or such a discomfort in pushing yourself to be in a new environment, to be with new people, talk to new people. It's just change is difficult for people because we like routine, we like what we're familiar with, we like what we're comfortable with. And then the minute we have to change, it's almost like, even if what's old is not that good for me, I'd rather stay in that than push myself for change, because we're so afraid of feeling that discomfort.
Absolutely. I think that's just within our human nature, and you're not alone. I definitely feel that. And I've talked to countless people, whether it be coworkers, friends. I feel like we've even had this discussion before, where having that change can be so uncomfortable, and we always want to opt for the old patterns that we have, the old routines. But ultimately, I find that within our own experiences, the change has always benefited us. It has always urged us to go out of our shell. And I think sometimes in terms of change, all you need is a different perspective, I think, to be able to experience life differently. I find that usually with what people experience in everyday life, or, you know, in different situations, it's all about mindset. And I think with change, it might seem like a huge drastic difference in your routine or life, but once you go about it, as soon as you experience this new change, your perspective and mindset is actually going to shift. And I think that's what ignites that good difference, that good shift in your life. I think that shift, it's almost like you're physically making that change, and it's uncomfortable because your brain doesn't agree. And then once you do that physical change, your brain is on board, and then it's like, oh, what was I worried about? It's all in the mind. It's all in the like brain, right?
It's all about mindset. It really is. And I'm kind of thinking about, what steps do I take when I know I need a big change in my life. And something I really always tend to do is even like just do a pros and cons list of my current situation. No matter what the situation is, you can always make a pros and cons list. And like, as you're writing, like, you're actually putting it on paper. It's not floating in your head anymore, and it's not just inside you. You're just actually like physically writing it, and you start to realize, like, once you get to the point where you've written all the pros and cons, you can really weigh in, like, oh my god, like, look at how many negatives, or oh my god, look at how many positives I was overlooking. I think it puts everything into perspective, and it kind of takes the bias of you being in your own head out, because now it's on paper and you can physically see those lists. One is going to definitely be shorter than the other, whichever way it goes. And then I feel like seeing it like that can really help make the decision of change. And sometimes change doesn't always have to be that this is bad for me, because if you've written that pros and cons list and the pros are so many compared to the cons, it can be as simple as, I have kind of a negative mindset, and it's recognizing that I need to be more grateful and more appreciative of all of these positives and remember them. And like, it can be work towards actively remembering the positives in our lives rather than focusing on the negatives.
I love that. And especially when you said when you're weighing it, because you're literally seeing which list is heavier. And it's awesome too, just to have that list, like you said, to kind of reflect back on the positives, to appreciate and look at the negatives and be like, what can I change here? Another thing that like I like to do is doing a general brain dump. Like, if I'm stressed or there's something worrying me, I have a lot on my mind, I'll just get a piece of paper and I'll dump everything on my mindset thing. And honestly, from there, I'll like try to categorize different areas of my life that these things kind of go into. And I find that any category of my life that seems to have like a heavier list of things from my brain dump, then I'm like, okay, maybe there needs to be change in that specific area. And I think utilizing those two lists will help navigate what direction you can take in terms of change. Like, whether it be doing a brain dump first or doing your pros and cons, I think that's really beneficial to really anyone in any situation.
And it's just honestly like both those resources, those tools you can use, is just about getting it out of your head. And like, also another thing I like to do is go to a trusted friend or a trusted family member, and
like me.
And before like disclosing, choose the right set of ears. You don't want a set of ears that's going to fuel your fire. You want a set of ears that's going to listen, that's going to be logical and going to help you process these things. Sometimes all you need to do, like what you're doing when you're writing them down, is just getting it out of your mind. Sometimes you just need to get it off your chest too. You just need to talk to someone you trust, and they're going to like let you know if your thought process seems off. And don't be offended, right? When you're going to a trusted source to talk to them, you want their honest opinion, because when you're making change, like we just said, it's uncomfortable and it's hard, and you want to feel confident in this decision you made so you don't think back and regret making a change, because making a change is always supposed to be so that it puts you in a more positive space, whether that be mentally or physically. It's just putting you in a more positive situation.
I love that. And even in terms of speaking to other people, I find that having a particular friend to reflect on particular instances in life, I think is also beneficial too, because sometimes people have different perspectives and they'll understand certain situations more than others. And then also in terms of the reflection too in journaling, I think that also a lot of people benefit from journaling, because kind of writing down all those thoughts and stuff kind of serves as someone listening to you in a way, because it's like as you're writing it down, it's kind of fulfilling that, not necessarily validation, but kind of wanting to be heard, because even though someone might not be physically hearing you, it almost it satisfies it still somehow. I don't know how it works, but it does. And I think it's so beautiful. And I think even to be able to jot that thought down or whatever, even if it's every day, every month, whatever frequency works for you, journaling I think is awesome, because then you can look back and see how far you've come and see how different your perspective could have been in a specific situation as opposed to now that you've gone through change. And I think that's also important, because if you can physically see like the paper trail of how your perspective has changed in life after you experience change, then it encourages more change in your life, and you're more eager to experience that change, which I think can heighten your quality of life, your experiences, and just overall your perspective, which is everything. Your mindset is everything, like I said before. And I think this is a general topic we'll just keep talking about. I think.
And honestly, adding two things came to mind with that. Let me start with the first one. It's also the paper trail is going to be so important, because do you ever look back and you think about a moment in your life where you thought, that's it, your life was over? It's such a big deal. And now you look back on it and you're like, why did I let this consume so much of my time, my mind space, and my energy? It's something like, we look back at 5 years ago, we think I was so silly, like I panicked, I was so anxious, I was so nervous. And now it means kind of not, like in this moment, those emotions, like they're not that they're not valid, but they're not there. Like it's not nothing
not accurate now to your situation.
And it just helps you realize that nothing that you go through in life is the end of the world. Like there's always solutions. That's what you have to remember. And just adding to that also is like your mindset and perspective is everything, because no matter what you're doing in life, you need to be sure that you're in line with your moral compass, because at the end of the day, don't feel pressure. What are people going to say about these changes I'm making? You're going to bed, it's going to be you. Like it's you and your mind and your thoughts. As long as you feel good about the person you are, you feel like your actions or your changes are in line with your moral compass, that is really all that matters.
I love that you brought that up, because I think that is such an important aspect too. I think in regards to change and just general everyday life, a lot of people feel like they can't proceed with certain paths of life or certain ways of, I don't know, just doing things, because they're worried about what people think of them. And I think being able to overcome that is huge. I think that's one of life's, not to even sound ignorant, a lot of people go through a lot of things, but the human brain can be one of the biggest factors of your downfall. You could, like think yourself into a bad situation essentially. And I think worrying too much about what other people think about you, it's human nature. But I think to be able to master that, or to be able to progressively improve that is so important. And even just being self-aware and recognizing that, oh, maybe I care too much about what this person thinks, and maybe you don't fix it by tomorrow. It doesn't matter. As long as you can recognize that maybe that's an issue, I think that's even the first step. And I think I love that you brought that up, because like I used to be like that, especially in high school, and I used to care so much about what people thought about me. Now, not to say that I'm like 100% like don't care, but I think I've improved so much since then, and I think that has contributed to a lot of positive things in my life that I've been able to achieve so far.
And I think it's something, I mean, I still work on until this day. And I saw somewhere and I was like, this is so true. Like, when you're going to be confident in yourself, confident in your decisions, confident that you are in line with your moral compass, you're almost creating a shield. You're really protecting yourself, because it's not gonna matter what's incoming, because truly inside you're feeling good about what you're doing. And that is just like, that's a journey we all need to work on. There's no, I would not believe if any human says they've perfected this, because I feel like that's something that's gonna always be a process. It's always gonna be a challenge. It's always, we're gonna take a few steps forward and then maybe backtrack a little, but as long as you're reminding yourself stay on track, that's all that matters.
It's funny because when you said that, I was like imagining like humans being welders, and they're welding their own like shield.
Yeah.
And then maybe, you know, with your experience, you didn't know how to build such a strong shield, so maybe it ends up being damaged, and then over time you learn about different materials that could strengthen it. And then maybe one time you get a hole through it, but that's fine because you patch it up, and eventually as you educate yourself more and improve yourself, then you ultimately find the best material to strengthen it at its most optimal level. And that's honestly like,
I love that. Like, I love that visual.
I don't know, I always try to have examples like that. I'm like also a visual person, and I like to think I'm a storyteller, so that's kind of how I like to perceive things, is like in a story, to be able to explain it to people too. Like sometimes people don't even realize that's the reason why, like because they care too much about people, and I think being able to even explain it in that sense can help people understand and maybe become a little bit more self-aware about what they need to improve on, which is awesome. And that kind of brings me on to another topic, I think, which is with like friends, like having those types of friends, and you kind of touched on that before, who can actually give you constructive criticism. Like if I go to a friend and I tell them about a certain situation, and you can tell if they could care less or not, but I love going to my friends and not necessarily hearing negative feedback, but hearing what I need to hear. And sometimes that can be negative. And I think in this time in my life, I'm grateful for the people that are capable of doing that for me. And of course you're one of them. Like if I were to come and ask you a question, you'll straight up tell me like, no, you know, like even if it's like, does this look good on me? Like if I look like shit, you'll tell me I look like shit. And I appreciate that.
You need that.
No, like even like when we're doing our photo shoots and stuff, you'll be like, oh, you're gonna fix your hair or whatever.
I know.
Or like even if my eyebrows are lopsided, I'm sure you'll fucking tell me. Like,
and it's good because I love that from you too. You do it for me too, and you got to think about it. You can't take it personally or in a negative way, because that just means like you care about the way I'm going to appear to others. You care about the decisions I'm making. You want to make sure like if there's something that's totally a red flag, I'm aware. Ultimately, it's not like you're going to make my decisions for me or I'm going to make your decisions for you, but we at least put it out there so that we can take it into consideration and make a better decision and be better. It's to improve each other, uplift one another.
I love that. Yeah. And I think the way that would work, the way it kind of works for me at least is, I mean, something as small as, hey, you have something on your face, I think the teeth thing is a big one. You have something
oh
in your
my
teeth.
God, yeah. I hate it when people let me go all day with like a piece of spinach on my teeth. Like, why?
Yeah, and like that, I feel like that's a filter. I'm like, this person didn't tell me I had spinach on my teeth all day. I'm gonna cut
Can't be a friend. Not a friend.
No more. But yeah, kind of still on that topic. If you something small like that, or it could be something like, hey, this really big situation happened with my family or whatever at work, and you know, you just want a fresh perspective, right? You want to be able to see how, not only how you look in someone else's perspective, but also how your situation is perceived in someone's perspective, and how to be able to approach it in a different way, which is also like, it's awesome, I think. It's
honestly important. It's important to choose the right people to surround yourself with, because it just, who you are around is going to help you, like, is going to help mold who you are becoming. And also who you are around can affect your mindset, because we can't help it. Like, as the more we're around certain people, the more we will adapt habits from each other. Just because that's how humans
That's a
are.
good point. So I you hear, I mean, growing up in high school, did your parents ever tell you don't hang out with that person?
Yeah.
And I think because they're adults and they could see that their frontal lobes are fully developed.
Yeah.
By the way, I'm turning 25, so mine's about to be fully developed. Anyways, yeah, so they're adults, they can perceive it as, okay, this child that this friend that my child is friends with, you always reverse it in my brain, is not a good influence, and they could potentially, my child could potentially absorb their whatever, their parents will think it's a defect, but it's just a flaw or something, like. But in general, it's just a example I'd like to think, even to this day, like if I surround myself with friends who have like a really negative mindset or something like that, like you're more likely to kind of absorb that mindset as well. If you would like to be specific in a particular industry, you can purposely surround yourself with people in that industry that are successful. There's ways of going around that in terms of avoiding specific people or also surrounding yourself with specific people. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think I think that's a great example. Like you see it so often now, like just people saying don't try not to be the smartest person in the room, just because if you surround yourselves with others that are more experienced, more intelligent, or not even necessarily more intelligent, just more experienced in a certain field, for instance, that you want to be in, you're gonna learn because they've just been through it. And if you're open-minded and you want to absorb, but just like that, if you surround yourself in the opposite environment of that, you're gonna kind of drag yourself down. So like the saying everyone uses is, what is it, show me your three friends and like I can't even, it's like, show me your friends and I'll tell you who you are.
Yeah, I think I've
something
heard of
along
that.
those lines.
And I think that's pretty accurate. I think looking back at myself, even maybe in high school, even in my early 20s, like it was pretty evident how my life was honestly, it was pretty affected by the people I was surrounded by. And I think now that, you know, things are progressing a little bit differently, it's because I'm surrounded by a little bit of some different demographics. I'll put it at that, if anything. But yeah, honestly, with new beginnings too, I think a lot of people can be hesitant with new friends. What are your opinions on that?
I mean, a lot of my, I think we were even talking about that, a lot of my life, like it's almost essentially the same group of friends I've had. Like I feel like the friends I have now, I've been friends with for long periods of times. I'm not somebody who goes out to seek new friendships, and that's just because I just feel like I always, and you probably do too, I trust my gut and my intuition. Like I make sure the people I'm surrounding myself with are if it's going to be someone new, they're a good addition to my life. And I'm a good addition to their life. Like it's not only one way, it's both ways. We're going to create a good friendship. It's not like, I don't seek friendships that are temporary. I just think it's so important also, like as women, to have those good female friends that you can relate to. They can help uplift you uplift them. It's just what you want to see in a friend is what I always try to remind myself. What I want from a friend is what I try to be for that friend.
I love that. Having that camaraderie where you kind of have like a versatile friendship where it's like you can reflect with one another, experience different things with one another, and to be able to, see different perspectives within each other, I think is really important. And I'm definitely the same way, where it's like I'm not actively seeking new friendships. I think especially with as we get older, it's not something that we even have time for anyways. But I definitely cherish the long-standing friendships that I have so far, and I'm grateful for it. And I think that as I meet new people, I like to be a little observant in the way that they kind of carry themselves and stuff, because I find that sometimes people can mask who they truly are in the beginning. And that's kind of goes back to being able to surround yourself with a particular type of person, right? So I can't lie. Sometimes I'm a little weary with making new friends here
Yeah.
and there, because
It's so tough too.
yeah, because like I feel like I have such a very sensitive energy. I like to think of myself as an empath, where I can feel someone's emotions and things like that. And I very much am the type of person to want to help people constantly, and I'm kind of wary about becoming too close to someone, like a new friendship that is someone who's experiencing, I don't know, a lot of stuff going on in their life. And I feel like it just, I don't know, it's just
Yeah,
hard
because
for
then
me.
you're gonna continuously give, and you're not gonna receive, and that's what that really goes back to the point where I'm thinking, like, everybody, when you're a friend, be the friend you want the other person to be to you, because if you're not, then you're most likely not being a good friend. And also, kind of, I guess it's kind of in line with this, is boundaries. Like, change, a big change for me that I am still working on, because I just can't get it right, because it's a struggle. It's something that's really hard for me, is setting boundaries, because I'm not a person with too many boundaries, because I also am someone who just likes to help, and I'll go out of my way.
Biggest heart.
I'll go out of my way. And so changing myself to be someone with boundaries, I start to like really get in my own head, because I'm like, oh my god, now I'm gonna come off as selfish, or oh my god, now I'm gonna come off as standoffish, now I'm gonna come off as, just not, I really psych myself out. But boundaries are also a form of respect for not only yourself but others as well, because thinking about it, and we might have talked about this before, but I just love this example because it was like the waking moment for me. It was when I saw this little video about when someone is asking you to hang out and you say yes, not because you want to, but because you feel like you're obligated to. That's selfish, because now this person wants you to give them their time willingly, because they're giving you their time willingly. You're resentful towards them because you're like, I don't even want to hang out with them. You're not respecting them because you're not actually fully attentive, because your mind is occupied, you're busy. That's selfish. It's not selfless. And you try to victimize yourself. Like I know myself, I've been in those situations. I'm like, I'm the victim, I'm so good because I want to give them my time.
For them.
When really I'm being selfish as heck, because I'm like not happy to be there. I'm doing it not against my will, but kind of against my will, just because I feel like I can't say no. Whereas if I had just said no from the get-go, and we rescheduled, or we chose a more time that was appropriate and worked for both of us, how much more enjoyable would would that be for both people? So that's a change that I'm working on, like, until this day.
I respect you for that. I respect you for even like being self-aware with that, because I find myself catching myself. I catch myself is what I'm gonna say. Feeling that here and there, like sometimes I can be too exhausted, or I might feel burnt out, and it's like, oh, I want to hang out with this person, I miss them, I want to maintain this relationship, but like I'm exhausted and I low-key don't want to go. But like you said, like it's okay, and it can be selfish. So I think it's important to have that transparency in that type of relationship. If you do want to maintain it, it's better to be transparent and be like, yo, straight up, I'm tired, can we do another day? Instead of being like, okay, sure, I'll come, and then you're literally fake as fuck and you try to have a good time but you're not. And I think that's really important to keep in mind with friendships, like especially as we get older, as we're adulting more, and you know, we ease into our careers and we are, you know, working on developing ourselves. That's really important to keep in mind, especially if we rarely see our friends. Like you don't want to waste that once in a blue moon hangout. You
want it to be valuable, and you want it to be a good time for both of you.
Especially because you're catching up. Honestly, hanging out with, you know, like friends that you see once in a while, maybe you didn't see them for a month, 2 months, 2 weeks, doesn't matter. Maybe stuff happened and they want to confide in you. You don't want to be absent-minded, right? So, you know, moral of the story, be transparent, guys. Like, don't be standing up your friends for no reason.
And setting boundaries is respecting yourself and respecting who you're setting boundaries with. Just remember that. As hard as it may seem in the moment, it's the truth.
honestly, I think that could be applicable to family as well.
Yeah.
I think that's so important with family. Like, as much as you can love your parents or your siblings, cousin, aunts, uncles, really whoever you consider family, it's important to keep that boundaries. You might love them, you might be really close with them, even with your partner too. It's something that you want to be able to establish, to be able to maintain not only a good relationship like we were talking about, but also to be able to maintain the quality of the relationship.
Yeah. The quality. That's
quality.
like, I feel like the key word there.
Yeah. That's truly, like, look at these ideas that we're bringing up. Like, it's truly, it really is illuminative.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Yeah. And so I think, like, honestly, really big kind of moral of all this is don't be afraid of change, because as scary as change might be, like, you're closing a door to open a new one that could be much better for you, that could be just what you need. And also, as long as you're making changes that fulfill who you are as a person, just know that when you go to sleep, you're going to be at peace with who you are.
Yes. I think even with careers, I think a lot of people are kind of scared to switch careers. Sometimes they might not find success in one and they want to pursue another one. I myself, I feel like I've cycled through quite a few interests that I've had.
Me too.
Yeah, and I think both of us, we've had very similar situations, so we can agree. And we've discussed this before too.
Yeah.
But a lot of people can be scared to move on to a new career to improve their situation. But just because, I think the major reason is because they're scared of what people think. I think that's nobody's business, to be honest.
Yeah.
And if you want to do something to better your life, especially if it's financially, you have a family or you want a family, don't be scared about what people think. Honestly, I guess bringing that up again, like, this kind of topic can really be applicable in any situation, in terms of career as well,
in every aspect. And switching careers is, if there's also like a fear, like, oh, if I leave, I'm such an important person in the company, like what if I'm screwing everybody over? You're really not. If
you're
just
my a number, baby.
Yeah, like, I actually genuinely felt like that multiple times in my life, and then I leave and I'm like, oh yeah, damn, it was like I was nothing. It's like my replacement was in the next hour.
Exactly. You honestly, like, in situations like that, you're like, why didn't they call me back crying yet? Like, I felt that way too. Like, I feel like we've both had some important roles in different companies before, and to be honest with you, at the end of the day, some companies actually care about you and some don't. And I think at the end of the day, you should just not care at all what the company thinks, what people thinks. I don't even think you should care what your mom thinks. Like,
it's because really, you know what your obligations are, especially when it comes to career. Like, you know what your obligations are, and this is something you're doing day in and day out. We're spending so much time at work. You need to make sure that you're not it's I don't know what would the calculation work out to be. It's definitely a huge chunk of your life, so you want to make sure that you are fulfilled. Like, you are financially rewarded, you are somewhere where you're treated respectfully and with decency, and don't be afraid to make that change. Like we said, we've both been through a lot of different careers, and that's okay. Like, in this day and age, you have to try things out to know what's right for you. But yeah, just do what feels good. Don't come home every day feeling miserable. It's not worth it.
And that's the important part.
Yeah.
And invest in a notebook.
Yeah.
Long story short, if you don't want to, put your spiel into someone else's ears, then put it in your notebook and journal about it.
Just get it out.
Yeah. Just get it out on a paper.
Yeah. I think this is good to even wrap up. Like, I feel like this is a good little chat.
Point.
Yeah. A good little chat about change is good.
Yeah. And I think that helped both of us, even just like kind of reiterating these topics we've previously discussed. I think this was a really nice topic to cover.
Yeah.
It's a good chat. Anybody. Yeah. Anywhere. And with that,
we'll say our goodbyes.
Yeah. No, not goodbyes. It's gonna be a see ya.
Oh yeah, see you. It's gonna be a see you next time.
Yeah, see you next time. Well, we'll wrap it up here. You guys know our socials at your.home.girls.
Yeah, and the personal ones are always linked as well, so you can
Yes.
just go ahead and check us out there. And until next time.
Until next time. Thank you for listening. Bye.
Bye.
Guys.